with alcohol, the introduction of that being one of the best things to use as a case study. Yeah, with Aboriginal communities, when they first came across alcohol, they couldn't get enough of it. They'd never been exposed to it. It wasn't in their genetics. You know, what would take many beers for Europeans to get drunk on, it took a lot. You know, took a lot less for Aboriginal communities to get drunk on. Similarly, with social media, I fear for young men, and I'd have no problem talking about this. I once had a problem with pornography, just like Graham Hoodie had a problem with pornography when he was a younger man. I overcame that, you know, but the problem is the kids that have it now, it is targeted. It is targeted at a crazy rate. They are using AI. They are using an algorithm that especially picks every single attribute that you like in a woman, every single attribute, and it crafts it, often fakely. It's not even that, oh, there's a girl that really exists out there. Exactly an AI they've created. And it's like, you guys don't stand a chance. This is like the Aboriginals when they first came across alcohol. And I really worried about that. And again, I'm not smart enough to answer this question, but it reminds me of the book, The Coddling of the American Mind by Jonathan Haidt, where he talks about the introduction of social media and the massive spike in young men and young women's suicide attempts and actual successful suicide attempts. And there needs to be a huge discussion about this. Do we introduce them too early to it? Do we put it off and do it at a certain age? I don't know. With alcohol, I was very lucky. My dad introduced me during the safety of the home, you know, a few scotches every few nights, and it was at a relatively young age. But that was in the safety of the home versus getting it at 18 and getting absolutely sloshed and making a fool of myself and potentially killing myself in some cases. And so I don't know. I think there's a huge opportunity to have a chat about this and get on the front foot. But Ben said this before the show. Where is the money in this? Where's the money in actually getting ahead of some of these issues? And actually, you know, where's the grant money? It doesn't seem like it's being wielded that way.
I think as well, it's a big issue because if you look at pornography, for example, one of the reasons why it has got so much more heavy exposure, especially to young people, children even seeing it, is because there has been a large push for free pornography that does not require a subscription or a credit card. And you're talking 20 years ago. Internet porn's been around since the internet began. But 20 years ago, pornographic websites you could not access if you didn't have a credit card. And there was free pornographic websites, but they were very, very poor quality, very, very low quality. Now, the paid porn sites are getting put out of business by the free porn sites because they're providing the same service, full-length, high-definition movies for free, and anyone can access it. All they do is go to the URL, and that is the problem because it's become an epidemic online, and it's being pushed everywhere, and it is destroying society. It's destroying relationships. You see young women thinking that they have to perform like this and do these certain things or they will never be able to get a partner. And it's the same for men. If I don't look like that or have that, then I'm not going to be able to get a girl. No one will like me. But it's also normalised things that aren't normal human interactions. And that is one of the most concerning things about it. It's warping the minds of young people. And if you look at particularly young men, lots of studies have been done on this. If you take a young man who's, say, 7 years old and they start watching pornography at 7, by the time they're 18, 20 years old, what actually ends up happening, it gets to the point they need more and more hardcore pornography to feed their addiction and their desensitization. Then they start to fantasize about being the actual girl in the film. And then they push to wanting to become a woman. And that's where you look at a lot of these mental health issues arise. Yeah, that's one of the studies that they've done. It starts to push them into transgender desires. First, it starts with wanting to see transgender people, meet transgender people themselves, but then it moves to, I want to be the woman in the film. Because there's nothing left at that point. They've seen every type of pornography there is, every type of extreme. They can't feed the addiction anymore. They can't get the high. They can't get the dopamine hit. So then they have to go to the next level, trying more and more extreme things. And this is why we see extreme, unrealistic sexual practices and desires in the community have risen massively over the last, say, 40 years, is a direct result of pornography. If you look at Papua New Guinea, look, I speak Tok Pisin. I've done a lot of study on Papua New Guinea. And one of the things that we did when I studied in the Defence Force School of Languages. And one of the things we did when we did it, was we learnt about the problems of pornography in the community there. They had a huge problem with pornography. The rapes went through the roof because what you'd have is a bloke in the Highlands would be sitting in a hut reading the pornography, gets obviously aroused, sees a young girl walking past, doesn't even think twice, goes out and drags her in the hut, and assaults her. That's what was happening. So the government banned pornography. Sexual assaults dropped significantly. So that's the kind of thing, if you look at it, it's really changed the whole of society in the way it works. But here's the problem. Because it's on other countries' servers in other countries, you'd have to get them to legislate and crack down on it. But then all that's going to happen, they'll just move to the next country and the next country, next country. How do you shut it down? How do you stop it? The way you're going to have to do this is you have to do it on the host level, so the computer level. So each individual device, as I said with the app, you have an overlay that stops it. So you don't want your kid to see pornography, the AI overlay will stop it. It sees it, detects it, blocks it, can't be seen. And that's the kind of thing then, doesn't matter what's out there in the world, you're protected and shielded from the world. So that's really realistically a better option.
Absolutely, and I think we need a rediscovering of ourself, rediscovering of Stoicism and the Christian values which help us destroy these values, these desires. Because I'm going to do we could talk about this forever, and I think there's a lot of young men that are listening to this right now and like, yeah, Joel, how the hell did you end that desire? Simple, I didn't. I recognized that if I'd keep doing this, it's going to take my creative energy. It's actually going to stop me from going and doing great things into the world. And it is a control vector. It is a control vector. This is like your creative, the X factor in you. And that urge to actually go and be creative and go and conquer the world, that is what you're giving up. That is why they want you to do that. But I'm going to get Graham Hood here in the future. We're going to do a dedicated study on this. Him and his wife have been doing some phenomenal work with regards to pastoral care on that and marriage counselling. So I want to get them in Sydney. They're not in Sydney. That's the only problem. But we will come back to that topic. Looking overseas now, can I just say I'm really enjoying this discussion with you guys. We have a phenomenal array of skills here. Meanwhile, in Venezuela, we're seeing a situation where Medusa